Brothers and sisters, what's going on? Could all hear Bulls on Wall Street, guys. A lot to unpack in today's video. We have multiple things that we need to discuss. Number one, how is the post FOMC digestion? You guys have probably saw yesterday, right? Like if you look at the the reaction yesterday to the FOMC, it was not good. We ended up coming back down into some support, and then we ended up having, really just a kind of choppy digestion day. The market was basically, if you look at the range from where the FOMC was, it spiked up to 423, came down to 417, and then we were right in the middle. And so we had this kind of digestion day, and overall just an inside day, makes a little bit of a choppy trading, but that's in the cards after a little bit of a dump the previous day. The key today, I thought, was the IWM. It faded off its gap. First of all, it had a nasty flush yesterday. Popped up, faded off its gap. But it tested right into the 50-day moving average on its daily chart. And we ended up with a really nice kind of a bounce in the IWM. Off the 50-day moving average, you get a complete reversal. So it rolled red and then hit the 50 and then totally reversed. Guys, very important to always mark out your levels when you're trading, because, a lot of times, like, you may see something like this and you see, like the market go below the previous day's lows, and you see this and you might start thinking like, oh man, I should be shorting this, right? I should be shorting this. Like, you break down, you're under the red to green spot. I should be shorting right here, right? But remember, the big picture is showing a deep pullback into some support zones, and so you often end up with these kind of bounces. And so that's the trap. That's the the bear trap that happens oftentimes. And now we've held there, and so we ended up with a nice digestion day post FOMC. But the kicker is, of course, post market. Holy shamoly. Right, we've got a huge run in the market, post-market, due to the good old Apple computers not doing anything for once, but Meta and Amazon coming in hot. And so that's what we need to talk about today. If you look here, Amazon comes in red hot, 150 to 174, 15 points. Dudes, that's a big number, right? So Amazon best key holiday quarter views as cloud revenue jumps. You got a little bit of a surprise that came in on Amazon, and that's really kind of boosting up, the stock price on this bad boy. At this point, it's got its all-time highs right in sight. So let's keep an eye on this. This is obviously these guys. This is saving this. We could have had a little bit of a retest, I thought, on the QQQs down over here, like we talked about yesterday's video. But, we got saved, right? I wouldn't say saved, we had maybe, I thought, one more down day before we started to rip. But it looks like tomorrow's going to be one of those gap and grind days. And then the good old Facebook. Good old Facebook, man. All these years, everybody keeps saying, I don't use Facebook anymore. It's not cool. We're TikToking, we're Instagramming, we're Pinteresting, and we're doing whatever, right? We're back to, using pagers or whatever it might be. But good old Meta here just had, a monster cock earnings out here. So earnings later Thursday, 5.33 diluted, up from 1.76 a year before. Analyst post 4.94, so you got a beat here. A beat is always the important part, right? The beat is the important part. You see here, you got the revenue growth. Dude, you got all this stuff. And then, of course, they instituted, a barely any dividend of 50 cents. But they had to do it. And so now you got a dividend. So, you got all these people piling. Probably this is untradeable tomorrow. It's moved up 64 points. This is not SMCI. It can't move, you can't chase it up 50 points and it still keeps going. But this is all very, very bullish for the market. Can we trade this tomorrow? If it pulls back, we need a deeper pullback. It may just literally chop around. If anybody remembers the last time that Meta gapped up on its earnings, let's go back here. Last quarter. See this right here? what you always want to do is go back into the previous kind of quarters, right? You got the gap up and see you got the filled candle. It didn't have any action, right? It didn't really have much action post. The gap was just too damn big, and we may have that again. But it's still bullish for the markets, you know. It's still bullish for the markets. It's going to be bullish for tech, and so we want to be a part of this. So Amazon, Meta, and then Apple had earnings, but not much of a reaction. You know, it just pulled back to 200-day moving average. Apple, if you see here, you know, the sales rose a little bit, but you're talking like 1%, you know, 1.5%. So not like some of the other names that are experiencing a lot more growth. Apple's kind of, they've evened out a lot, right? They haven't had really any growth in the last couple of years. And so this is kind of, right, just that big last dinosaur that's, you know, happening. And then there's been a lot of news that the China sales have been coming in slow. So this is, you know, this is down, but it's only down 1%, where the other two big boys are up a lot. So we've got things to unpack here. Let's go into the watch list. There's a possibility. So the market's going to gap up like a motherfucker at you know, we probably break out here at some point. What we want to do, our game plan for tomorrow is, right, let it pull back. It may even spike up at the open, but at some point you'll pull back. All these big gap days, you usually have a deep pullback at some point after the first 30 minutes or so. Not deep, but you might pull back to the 20 EMA. You'll break under the VWAP, like suck in some shorts, right? That wall of worry. There's always a lot of bears still that, you know, this is like the most disbelieved rally of all time, right? And because all you can think of is like, well, you know, Biden couldn't open his beach chair. Biden shit his pants during a speech, you know, border, whatever, right? You know, people just think of these kind of things, and so they always think the world war, what is it good for? You know, you think of all these things, and so you start thinking, right, the stock market has something to do with that, but it don't, right? And so now, you know, you'll have always a fade at some point. You guys like my new hat, by the way? The new Bulls gear. I want to do something like a sailor, right, with a little rope. So watch for a pull. It'll probably break under the VWAP, suck everybody in, and then, right, then we might be able to do a gap and grind. Let's go into the watch list, man. There were some heaters even today. You know, NXT, these earnings plays are working. You know, it was a little bit tricky, gapped up, and then it was more of a grinder. But even as a grinder, it was moving 3-4 points into the thrust, right? Into kind of those velocity surges. I think this got a day two. It's not like a low float stock or anything. It doesn't need to be. IPO breakouts are still powerful. You know, my worry is that this one was going to be heavily watched. You know, a lot of people are kind of getting in on the earnings games, but you know, these are like kind of bread and butter things we've been doing since, right? We started Bulls in 2008. I think this is a day two play. NKTX, for you guys that like a little bit of a cheaper name, right? I know some of you guys in the chat have been asking, like, can you give me some cheaper name? This one's probably got a nice little Friday squeeze on it, right? Look for a weak open on this. A red to green looks pretty good. EZPW, Easy Corp. Check out the big base on this guy, right? Look at Big Brad with the big base. So you got this thing, nice little squeeze here, 3 million shares, 15% move. Right? This one has a chance here. You're going to have probably, if it busts through 10 or something, you have a day trade out of this one. PGTX, we had this on the gapper list this morning. I took it off because it didn't have any liquidity. I was wrong. It spiked up at the open. It came back, filled the gap. This is what you want to see, right? And then, see how it starts to open up here? That's, woof, big trend around this 4 freaking points on a $25 stock. That's a bueno. It's got good liquidity for a $25 stock. 5 million shares is pretty good. ALGM, I like this one. So this one actually had microsystems, right? You know, maybe people confuse it with SMCI, right? Because SMCI has got something micro in it. Yeah, let's see. Maybe somebody confuse it. Super micro, right? Microsystems, close enough. But remember, traders are stupid, so sometimes this stuff works. No, they had their earnings out, right? And net sales rise, earnings fall, blah, blah, blah. But this one was a fugazi. It actually opened weak, and then it reversed. Usually when you have a stock that opens weak and reverses on earnings, that catches a lot of people off guard. I think that this one has got a nice day too. This is a good sweet spot of stocks, by the way, guys. A lot of you guys probably will have and are having trouble trading things like Nvidia, Netflix. They're just too expensive. They got big spreads, SMCI, big fucking spread, very expensive, and there's a lot of range. You know, you tend to oversize those things. When you get yourself a nice $29, $30, $40, $50, $60, $70 stock, a little bit easier to trade, a little bit less spread, you know, that kind of stuff. This thing's like got a good look to it. OUGI, right? OUGI. This one was an earnings play, adjusted earnings increase, you know, blah, blah, blah. You get right at the 200-day moving average. Dudes, right? You got a nice spot right here, right? So this is, right, your kind of classic bottoming, W pattern, right? It's going to look like three knuckles to the downside. And you got your 200-day moving average right on top of this thing. 7 million shares in volume. It's got good, what we want to always see, right? You want to see how it trades intraday. Does it follow what we're trying to do? I believe it does. You know, that's got a good damn look to it. Let's add that. Boots and Coots. You know what? Take this off. There's a retail stock. I like the overall bottoming pattern on this, but retail stocks suck to trade. Butt plug. We shorted this actually today. I caught most of this. That was actually nice. The puts were up about 100% on this gap fill. I think we could take this off the list for tomorrow. This one I like. VSTO. Vista Outdoors, right? Earnings. Reaffirms guidance. All that fun stuff. The earnings come out on this bad boy. You got a little bit of a range break setting up here. Dude, that's got a good look to it, you know. Let's see. My worry on this one is the liquidity, but I think it's still got a good look to it. You can add that. SC had an upgrade from Citigroup today, and I do think this is an overall bottoming play. You can see this thing was $90. It's been really marinating here in the 37 range for quite some time. Citi upgraded it today to 50, so that did put a little bit of oomph in its keister. Man, that's classic, right? If that don't gap up tomorrow, we red to green this thing. Goose Island here. Got a sweet spot right here. $13, $13.20. Do we take that out? I think we get a secondary play on this. Let's see. Snow tested down at a fake breakdown. This is like a classic breakout setup. You get the fake breakdown, and then you get this move because of Meta, the Meta Nation and Amazon. Let's see if we take out that 212. I wouldn't chase it up at the open. You can't chase it up 6%, right? But let it pull. You know, like it probably will give back half of this, you know, and then we see if this thing can do it. Hey, because of Meta, there's a shot this snappy chat. You got, dude, look at the Flagzilla on this bad boy, right? 17, test. Let's look at an hourly chart right here, right? 17 is just a nice, dude, you got some nice sweet spot there. Once again, you can't chase this thing up because it's thick. 1.6 billion share float, but it's got that 2-month-long base. You're going to have a sympathy with the Meta Nation. Dude, it's a buenos. S. We still got this 28.50 breakout. Tomorrow's the day probably for this. UPST, ALGN, I'd leave all this shit alone. We want to be focused in on some of these big techs that are flagging. I think Netflix probably breaks out tomorrow. I'd leave BA alone too. We got better plays than this, right? Leave BA, all this kind of stuff alone. We want to focus on these bad boys, these old earnings plays. Let's just take a look at some of the big caps here just in case. Nvidia was screaming after hours. I think maybe AMD busts loose tomorrow. You know, obviously we know the Meta Nation's lactating, it's marinating, lactating, all that stuff. Amazon. We want to hit these on dips. They're going to have to dip big, right? Big pullback, 50 EMA, maybe a Fibonacci, something like that is going to be hot. Look at this. Test on NVIDIA. That's hotter than a goose's caboose right there, right? AMD, Microsoft, nasty little fade on the earnings days, then inside day today. we'll see. I don't think that's a stay away. Tesla's, I think, a stay away too. We caught a little bit of a fade on this. I kept covering early like a piker. Then it reversed. I think that's a stay away. Google's a stay away. I think Netflix is doable, and AMD is doable tomorrow for non-chase breakouts. And then, Meta, Amazon, we'll watch for the deeper pulls and see if something happens. And then we'll get that party going, guys. This is a trader's market, man. One day things look nasty. The next day they look great. You know how it goes. We just got to stick and move. Wait for your setups. It's been fun times in the chat room, as always. And, dude, check out our options room. Man, Holy Levi's coming in. Man, he's been coming in real hot, man. He nailed Qualcomm today. Dude, the guy's been he's just a consistent trader. He really is fucking fantastic. So, dude, you check out some of his shit, man. That guy's going downtown Julie Brown. Peace, guys. I love you.